Hey there, this is Jason Gray of Regenerative Media Network, and this is Regenerative Road Trip. Back in 2012, way back in 2012, remember when Gangnam Style hit the interwebs and people really thought that the world was ending because a calendar was running out of stone? Yeah, that 2012. A bunch of bored civic leaders got in a big room with bad coffee and stale muffins to come up with a plan for the future of the Pikes Peak region. They went into a few days of meetings and breakout sessions and brainstorming and came forth and spoke with one voice the proud and noble vision of what Colorado Springs would be in that far-off distant future of 2030, when there would be amazing things like self-driving cars and private companies trying to go to Mars and virtual reality and... Oh, wait. Well, the Pikes Peak 2030 sustainability plan that they created endeavors to double small-scale food producers growing food and making a living doing it in the region by 2030. This is a laudable goal. I'm sure you all understand why this would be a good thing, but let's review. Let's see. Locally grown, fresh food, literally field to fork, is better for you and tastes better too. It also helps keep a region keep more money local in more ways. Naturally, we already buy our holiday and birthday gifts from local craft sources, right? Maybe folks who make cool clothing accessories out of recycled electronics? Hint, hint, click, click. Buying our food locally keeps more money here that was otherwise definitely leaving the region. We have the Colorado Proud labeling system, which is a great step, but it's just a first step. The pro level up version of this effort is when you buy your food and ingredients from local farms direct, or from co-ops or farmers markets. Then a lot more of the money stays here. Also, unlike the first step of Colorado Proud, no cut of that money is going to Amazon, Whole Foods, Safeway, or Walmart, a lot of which, again, leaves the region. A lot of eastern Colorado's agriculture economy is made up of multi-generational farmers and ranchers. We're not that, so why did we start Gray Area Farm? Farm mom Tara Lynn was one of the principals at the School for the Deaf and the Blind, and I'm a finance geek by education. We sold our place in Falcon and moved out to 40 acres between Rush and Yoder exactly because of those romantic notions that everyone has about small-scale homesteading and farmsteading. Blue skies, fresh air, the kids being able to run around a quarter mile in any direction without any care, reducing our carbon footprint. Oh, who am I kidding? We wanted a zombie apocalypse bunker. Come on now, there's a reason why all us former high finance types are buying homesteads and becoming preppers. So, if it's such a wonderful lifestyle, and we have so many libertarian preppers in this region already, why aren't there more fresh veg and direct sale meat producers around here? Why do we keep hearing of people starting and then disappearing, even within one season? Is it because there's not enough farmers markets? Because there's not enough educated consumers? No. It's because sustainable farming without profit is by definition unsustainable. Small and micro-scale farming is a business, and we know that starting a small food-related business is really tough. Almost all fail within the first few years. You know what makes the chance of success even worse? Not treating it like a business, or being bad at math, or like at least one small farm around here that I worked with for a while. Both. What do I mean by bad at math? Let's take the most egregious of examples, the $2.50 a dozen egg. What goes into the cost of a chicken egg? Coop building, depreciation and repair, brooder construction, the chick itself, the feed to grow the chicken for 7 months before they even start laying, loss and replacing when the coyotes or abandoned pet dogs get them, bedding, heat lamps or lighting if you're into that. We're not because of fire and power outages. And all that's before the very first egg even arrives. Then you have to continue feeding them, and repair fencing, wash the egg, candle the egg, package the egg in new cartons every time with legal labels, because we're all doing that right, because those rules don't go away at small scale. Refrigerate the eggs, hop in your truck and drive to the farmer's market, and then sit there for 5 hours under an expensive canopy that will get destroyed every few months during farmer's market thunderstorms. And, oh by the way, there's a lot of person hours spent within all of that. And you have to pay yourself a living wage, right? For $2.50 a dozen. You are out of your mind. It's even worse if you try to go organic and soy-free and corn-free and still charging $2.50 a dozen, which I have seen on Facebook community groups around here. If they're telling the truth, which isn't guaranteed, I've visited farms and seen corn kernels in their allegedly corn-free feed. They aren't even covering half their feed cost with that $2.50. The problem with small-scale production is that you don't get to produce with economies of scale, so you can't compete with Walmart. That's the biggest knowledge gap that organizations, farmers, and online educators have to fill for consumers and also would-be producers. Also, the lifestyle is not all that it's cracked up to be. We farmers are responsible for that perceived lifestyle because we love sharing pictures of cute piglets and happy chickens. But for every 3 cute piglets born out on pasture, there's one that got squished by the sow because we don't want to use farrowing crates for animal welfare reasons. For every big Instagram-quality organic head of cabbage, there's 3 that were hail damaged or beetle killed. For every dozen eggs, there's a farmer sprinting out their front door at midnight with a broom or a shotgun to chase off a dog that someone dumped in the country. We do not get paid in sunsets. We cannot pay our expenses with the benefits of the lifestyle. That's the nationwide producer problem. Small-scale food is necessarily more expensive food, and we have to be okay with that. What about the region-specific problems that we need to overcome here in eastern Colorado? The 3 biggest concerns for real estate is location, 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 right? Well, the 3 biggest concerns here in the Mountain West are water, water, and water. Joel Salatin likes to say everything he wants to do is illegal. Well, if he was here in Colorado, he'd be exactly right. Almost no one that goes into the farmsteading thing around here realizes that if they're on a well, then making a living farmsteading is strictly illegal. There's a significant farm in eastern El Paso County that faced this problem. They got a cease and desist letter from the Department of Water Resources. They were warned that if they continued to sell veg, they would face $500 a day fines and they would have their well condemned. That's where they physically come with sheriff deputies and pour concrete down the well. That particular farm only survived because of a wacky, you've got to be kidding me style coincidence wherein an existing commercial well was near them that they could buy from. The only ray of hope for most farms is a relatively unknown Department of Water Resources policy 2011-3. This allows you to grow veg or animal protein for sale on domestic permit wells as long as the property is also your primary residence. You only do an acre of garden maximum. The revenue from the plants sold is not the primary source of income for the household. In other words, a majority of household income has to come from off-farm employment. The primary purpose of the irrigation is for personal use of the same kinds of plants that you're selling. So in other words, basically only veg, no contract growing of alfalfa or feed corn or whatever. Irrigation of plants remains within the seasons of irrigation. In other words, no heated greenhouses. And finally, no employees. So thus, interns, woofers, and of course, the family of the family farm. That all means we can't have medium-scale family regenerative farms dotting the plains. It's going to be little guys like us. Lots of us. And since 51% of your income has to be documented as coming from off-farm employment, and you can't hire employees, then this current water law system will not help meet the Pikes Peak 2030 plan's goals of being able to make a reasonable income producing food for the community. Even if we had all the water rights in the world, people, especially folks in town, don't realize how bad this environment is for growing food, especially when most of us are transplants, pun intended, from better growing areas of the country. Alkaline soils, epic winds, super dry air, hail, wind. Did I mention wind? It's really tough. Once you get beyond microscale, we're really up against it as a region if you want to stay regenerative. Altitude plus severe UV rays plus wind plus no soil organic matter plus no water. Geez, we might as well be growing on Mars. So, just like any good Martian trying to grow food, we're going to have to science the crap out of this. No, we're not talking about having Bayer AgriScience, GMO up a hail-proof head of lettuce. But we need to get rid of absolutism, a pure, open-air, soil-based permaculture and regenerative farming that we all want is going to have to be supplemented for the first few decades with something that will actually grow food in this environment. Hoop houses, aquaponics, hydroponics, wicking beds, etc. You know who also wants to grow food on Mars? Anyone got Elon's cell number? Because maybe the community can get SpaceX to build a demonstration project out here. But regardless, all of that information is a bit of a downer, right? What's the way forward? 1. Stop romanticizing small-scale and micro-scale farming. It's hard and it is a business, and businesses fail frequently. 2. Figure out water. Until 2011-3 gets codified into the actual statutes, there's always the risk of it being repealed by the Department of Water Resources. That partially combines with number 3. Science! We can race climate change and start creating better microclimates and better soil, but in the meantime, we grow how we can. 4. Educate would-be producers and consumers about legitimate, sustainably profitable pricing and running their farm business as a business and charging for quality. And 5. Support 4-H and FFA. By 2030, it's going to be kids like Ainsley and Travis running places like Gray Area, and their classmates running the ranches out here in eastern El Paso County. If you happen to have a business, come bid on the livestock projects at the El Paso County Fair, especially from kids who are growing their animals on pasture or otherwise regeneratively. In the meantime, if you wouldn't mind taking a listen to our media project and sharing them around, we sure would appreciate it. Here on YouTube, please thumb it up, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts below. You gotta feed the algobots. If you really like this video and want to see more of this kind of content, please check out our Patreon page and support our efforts.